Writing a book is really hard. It's hard to do a lot of things for a very long time, like for an hour, or a day, or a week, or even a month. You can make yourself do mostly anything. But writing a book takes months, if not years, sometimes even decades. And when you start stacking up all that time, staying true to your initial vision can be really, really difficult. There's a balance there because you don't want to burn out, but at the same time, you need to make consistent progress, or you just drop the thing completely. So getting to the end of a novel is often just a mad dash of throwing things together and just hoping you can get to the end before that inspiration that struck leaves you. When you finally write the end after finishing a 50 to 100,000 word story, it feels amazing. You're on top of the world. And then comes the realization that maybe those 50 to 100,000 words aren't that good. You've focused so much on getting to the end of the story that when you finally look back at what you've done, it feels like a mess. The characters are a mess. The scenes are a mess. Does anything even make any sense? So then you have to start the revision process. You go back through those 50 to 100,000 words and you try and make sense of it all. You try to put it into a cohesive story for someone to be able to read. And sometimes that takes one draft, sometimes that takes many. But closer and closer, you're getting to that original idea that you had all along. When you initially look at that mess, it can be extremely overwhelming. And I would argue that that second draft is even harder than the first. So you might ask yourself, is this even worth it? We've been spending months, maybe years, working on this project that nobody else has seen, giving up time spent with family or friends or just relaxing to pursue this thing that you felt so passionately about. And that's where the end of the second draft, or whichever draft it took to really clarify the story, that I feel like it all comes together. You can finally look at what you've written and say, there is a story there. Maybe it's not in its most perfect form yet, but it's readable. And somehow in that moment, everything feels worth it. I realize that the beginning of this video is maybe a little much, but I feel like I just really want to lean into the fact that I am so close to finishing the second draft of my novel. And I had intended to string out more drafts and then to focus on major developmental edits with each of them. But instead, I found myself just kind of trying to do everything in one. So when I finish this draft, we'll have accomplished most of the major things that need to happen. I'll have to do a read through to just make sure, but it's huge. Before I started making writing videos and I finished a draft or I finished, a story to wherever I brought it to, I feel like I didn't really let it sink in what I'd accomplished. Like I was kind of like, great, cool, put that aside, let's move on. But by documenting the process and making these videos, I feel like it's really allowed myself to celebrate the wins a lot more. So if you haven't seen a video from me before, my name is Josie, and I'm currently revising my mountaineering revenge thriller novel. We are on draft 2, which has been a pretty hefty revision. Right now, I have 2 chapters left in this novel. So both of them are kind of resolution chapters, and I'm struggling a little bit for the end note and exactly what I want the consequences to be at the end. But we're gonna take a pause here because there are a few things I want to go back through and kind of tweak. So this is not going to be like a super intense read every single word, but they're just like a few threads that I feel like I need to just follow and go to the scenes where they are and just solidify them before I feel good with calling it the end of draft 2. My plan is that I'm going to go back to the list that I created when I was first deciding what my plan was for draft 2 and what I would potentially want to do for consecutive drafts. And I'm going to go through and make sure that I've hit all of those. And then maybe I'll come up with more. So we're going to do a bit of brainstorming tonight. And then we're going to go through the list. And then we're going to go back into the final 2 chapters because I feel like it's so much more satisfying when you finish the last chapter and that's the end of the draft. To go and finish the end of the book just to then go back and make edits, we're not going to get the same payoff as if we go and do these little things first. And I love writing thrillers, so it's all about payoff and endings. So we got to make it good for myself. I haven't updated you in, I think, over a week, just because a lot of stuff's been happening. Not that much has been happening in the document, unfortunately. So I sat down and I wrote out 5 different threads that I wanted to follow before finishing this story. So there was stuff from like subplots, like the romantic subplot that I've been working on, to stuff like I want a specific object to have a symbolism attached to it. So now I'm going through the whole story and really making sure that the object is representing what I want to. I know it's a little vague, but yeah. So there's basically 5 different things, themes or bigger subplots that I'm going through. I'm almost finished going through one of those threads completely. I decided not to do the romantic subplot right away because that felt intimidating. There's a lot that I have to do there. But when I found spots for the other threads as I was going through it, because I'm kind of like skimming through the book and finding the places where I want to put stuff, I left comments for myself about like what I could do and change. It is like 5 p.m. tonight, and my plan is to just write for the evening. So I'm currently doing more field work. If you've been around, I feel like all I've been doing recently is field work, but we are here. And I'm potentially not going to go out on the water until 2 days from now. So I could potentially have all of tonight and all of tomorrow with nothing to do but write. So that's what we're going to try and do. And maybe I'm a little delusional, but I feel like if I really focus up and I give myself all of this time, I could finish the book in 2 days. Yeah, I feel like I can do it. So we're going to go for it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm really just going to let myself sink into the story. It's kind of interesting because when I have times like this where I just have this huge chunk of time free, and it's not like there's a lot for me to do because we're in a pretty small town right now and there's a lot of bears out because it's like early spring and bears with cubs. So I don't really want to go on any big hikes, and a lot of the hikes that are up in the mountains have snow on them. So all that to say, I don't have a lot to do. I finished my book on the flight here. So it's times like these where I really try to think about if I ever do become a published full-time author. And in moments like this, I almost need to prove to myself that given all this free time, I can actually get a lot done. Because my excuse for myself is always, oh, I have so much work to do. I don't have time to do this. I haven't always been writing as focused as I have been in the last 5 years. Like growing up, I wrote a story when I was in grade 6, when I was in grade 11, kind of in between. I would take really long breaks. And then when 2020 happened, COVID happened, I really buckled down to try and finish the thriller novel that I'd kind of loosely started. And I had this period of time over Christmas 2020 when everyone went home for the holidays. I didn't because I was worried about COVID and bringing it home to my family, where I spent like 2 or 3 weeks by myself in the middle of winter in Alaska. And I just remember working on this thing for hours, and mostly in the dark because it was super dark at that point. But I just remember spending so much time on this story, and I really want to try and get back into that zone and really see and really prove to myself that I could actually be productive as a full-time writer. So I think I'm going to look for an old live stream on YouTube of other people writing to motivate myself to get myself into it, because right now I feel like I've been away from my manuscript for too long, so it's a little bit hard for me to like want to jump in, but I know as soon as the computer's open, I can do it. This was a pretty good start to this 2-day intense writing session that I want to do. I did 2 of the 5 kind of plot threads. They were like smaller things, and then I started working on the romantic subplot, and I am now at page 95 out of 227 of just going through and making sure that the subplot works. I went and did a little bit of stuff later, but now I'm kind of seeing if everything I did like makes sense, if it's fitting, if I need to add maybe a different scene in different places to smooth it out. But I have gotten very tired. I've gone through 2 cups of tea. I will say, I prepared for this. I brought so many tea options with me, as well as I got some milk, so I was able to make my Earl Grey the way I wanted to. But yeah, I'm going to go to bed because it is officially 10 p.m. and we are going to wake up tomorrow, maybe have a little bit of a slow start. We're just going to get to writing, I think, as quickly as possible. And so I'll have to finish this subplot, work on these 2 other smaller threads, and then we'll finish the last 2 chapters. I think it's doable to do in one day because I really just have the whole day. I may go for a walk or a run though, because I'm actually able to borrow a bear spray from a friend that lives here. So that may end up kind of splitting the day in half or something. I don't really know, but we're gonna get a lot of writing done. So I'll see you in the morning. I'm having a little bit of a tough time. So this morning was a little tricky to get into it. I kept getting distracted by stuff, but I finally got to the end of the book in terms of before the last 2 chapters of this romantic subplot, but I just don't know if I like led up to it well enough, because there is steady progress that throughout the story, but there's this one final, like the revelation scene, and I feel like I don't know if it's earned enough. Let's say we're doing steady progress, right? But I don't know if it's like earned enough, if we're here, or if I've built it up like this and then we just jump all the way up to this unearned scene. I think a lot of the flashbacks I've been using have been doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of showing their past relationship to kind of bolster what's happening in the present. So even though in the present they're not like pining over each other, you kind of get a sense of the history. I'm gonna think on it a little bit more, and I'm gonna work on the last 2 threads and then come back to it after that and see if I want to do more. But like, it seems good. I just don't know if it's good enough. I finished the 4th plot thread pretty quickly, but I've decided to leave the 5th plot thread for when I do more of like a line by line edit instead of this more like developmental edit. The weather was looking really nice, so I just had to get out and I went for a run, and now I am stretching. So we're just gonna jump into the last 2 chapters. I'm honestly a little nervous that they're gonna be pretty rough. It might take me a while, but at the same time, like, I almost can't believe that we're almost at the end. Like, that seems crazy to me. I finished draft 2. I think I did. I mean, I got to the end of those 2 chapters, and I think that means that the draft is done. I don't know. I'm still a little bit like, there's something else I have to do, but I can't think what else I need to do. It's not even 4:30, and I did it. I'm done. I think I'm gonna try and like process a little bit, and go for a walk because there's still sun in the sky. So I was gonna go out to this glacial lake. Yeah. Hopefully by the time I get there, I can actually process how I'm feeling. I definitely needed this. I feel like when I was still in that room at my computer, even though I finished the last sentence, it didn't really feel like the end, because I was like, I can tweak it some more. I can go back through this chapter again and again and again. And so being out here, kind of taking a step back, I feel the real sense of closure, the real sense that I am done. I will say the final chapter, I'm not 100% happy with. I feel like it could be a little weird, and I think, again, it'll take a read through, and in the next draft, I'll figure out exactly what I want from it. But I feel like for the most part, like, this draft 2 is really solid. Like, I wouldn't be embarrassed to give it to someone to read. Like, obviously it would be like a family or a family member or a friend. So it's not like I'd give it to a stranger, because I think the main thing now is that the actual writing is not really up to par. Like, I really want to work on the line level stuff. But, I mean, that's for another day. we've accomplished what we set out to accomplish, which is draft 2. Draft 2 is done. I think every project is different because each one has its own set of challenges. But this one in particular, I've been fighting with for a really long time. The first time I remember really thinking about the story and trying to puzzle out scenes or characters or even just which teams I maybe wanted to have included was in the fall of 2020? No, maybe it was 2021. But either way, that's like 4 years that I've thought of this story. And I felt so held back because I didn't know a lot about mountaineering. It honestly did hold me up quite a while because I really wanted to feel authentic. And I think I thought that it couldn't feel authentic until I became a mountaineer, right? Like a person who did these things. And I've decided in my life that that's not something I'm interested in just because of like risks that I'm willing to take, but also just like time I want to invest in other things. So it didn't end up happening. But I'm so happy that I finally finished this story and the characters turned out the way I wanted them to, though albeit from my initial thoughts to now, things have changed, but I really like how the characters turned out. I really like how the themes turned out. I really like how the mountaineering aspect has played such a central role and how all of that turned out. Like, I am so pleased with this story. And I think that going through with these different 5 threads, I guess 4, because I nixed the other one that I want to do more in the line level. But I feel like it made me kind of skim through the story really quickly. And I've been so focused on the last third, for the last couple weeks or maybe even a month. I am having trouble gauging time these days. But going back to the beginning and seeing all these scenes and really going through a lot faster, I'm so excited by all the fun things that happen in this story. I feel like it's just a really fun book. There's a lot of fun scenes, fun characters. There's lots of stuff going on. And I honestly can't wait to do a read through. I think that that's going to be just a really fun experience to just go through the whole story. But I'm not going to do it for a bit. I think it's important to take a step back, even if it's just for a few days. But this feels really momentous. I feel like finishing draft 2 is more exciting to me than when I finished draft 1. Because draft 1, I still knew there was a lot of things I need to fix. But I feel like a lot of those have been fixed now. So, yeah, I don't really have much more to say. I think I'm just going to look at the glacier for a bit and enjoy the feelings that I feel right now. Thanks for making it this far, and I'll catch you when I do a read through of this story. Dang. Yeah. Cool.